What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 576 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Podcast Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert E. Felice.
Yo.
And Callum Wiggins.
Deja vu.
Yeah, take two is going to work at this time on this recording. We have been doing so many podcasts for you over the past few days or so, and hopefully you've been enjoying all that stuff when you're listening to this after the fact of when these things come out, because the end of the year awards are rolling along. We still got another one to record, but we need to stop in the middle of that to give you the hot tags of the week, which means that we're breaking down the current events and gossip and rumors and news and speculation and reports about movies and things from NXT tapings and spoilers and New Japan talk and Impact talk and ROH talk, and we got a whole lot of different things to break down here, firings and releases and, risque content and all. So as we go along here and we tell you what we think about all these topics, we want to know what you have to say about it. So chat us up in the comments below and tell us what you're thinking. If you're listening to this on the audio only streams and you don't see the comments below, hop on over on YouTube and create an account. And while you're doing that, hit that like button on there as well. Double check that you are subscribed to this channel, and if you can see that if it says subscribed, and if it says just subscribe, then you know what to do. Click that button. Should also be hitting that little notification alert bell. That way you get those email pop-ups of when we go live for certain things, which we don't have a live thing currently scheduled for the rest of 2022, but we do have some more content coming your way, and we've got the end of the year awards stuff that is currently scheduled for premieres, so you get some little notifications on those as well. But right next to subscribe, there's the join button. And on the YouTube channel membership side of things, you can get access to the same stuff that you get on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, you'll see the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, and so on and so forth. Redbubble and TeePublic are where you can pick up some merchandise if you want to get like a t-shirt or you want to get some other kind of stuff that they've got for lots of different designs, lots of different products that you can slap those designs on. All that stuff goes a great way into helping us improve going forward, including the fan feedback survey, which is all about asking you how we can improve going forward in 2023. Let us know your thoughts on what you would like to see more of for the podcast and the website, and we will take all that feedback into consideration and try to make things even better for the next year. And I guess we should just kind of start getting into these hot tags because we got a lot to break down here. So is there anything you guys want to start with? You want to start with a big topic or you want to start with some of the little ones?
I think we should start with a big one.
Well, let's talk about the Mandy Rose thing then. It's clicking on, I'm sure some people are clicking on this from the thumbnail alone and everything. And that's one of the biggest topics of the week, which this factors into some of our TV talk. But, it's kind of burying the lead when it comes to that. We're not going to go back and be like, and then this happened on NXT. But on NXT, Roxanne Perez had started out the night with a promo about the Iron Survivor Challenge and how she won and so on and so forth. And this prompted a segment of challenging Mandy Rose for the title then, as opposed to waiting for New Year's Eve, which seemed like it was probably going to be the plan. Throughout the night, you do whatever it is to the other stuff. We'll backtrack on that a little bit later, but Roxanne wins the NXT Women's Championship. And by the next day, Mandy Rose is fired from WWE. And the reasoning is that she doesn't have an OnlyFans necessarily. And there's apparently like a million of these things now. I've seen people refer to stuff. There's like Brand Army and there's like Fansly, I think is the name of one or something. There's like, everybody's just going, and then this is my version of this and all. But she has her own website that she has like a subscription service based kind of thing for, with a secret menu and all this. I don't know how this shit works. Apparently WWE didn't for a while, and then they figured it out. Supposedly from Matt Bloom is the one that had called attention to it. And since it's too risque for what they, I guess, would allow with somebody like a Lacey Evans having things or people posting on Instagram or whatever, they have released her. And since then, there have been different reports of things like that she requested her release, which then seems to be kind of, well, that's not necessarily true, and who's floating that story around. So typical scuttlebutt, and you got to keep everything in mind with, taking it with a grain of salt and all. But Mandy has also upped her fan site subscription price from I think it was $25 before, according to the one report, and it's now $40. And some things say, she seems like she's going to be fine. Other things say she was blindsided by it. Some say that she was warned ahead of time and decided that she was just going to risk it anyway. We are all kind of in agreement about this, that we've chatted outside of the podcast, and we're going to repeat a lot of this, but this is why you see it on the title. This kind of seems like bullshit to release her. And I mean, we'll go into specifics, but I think that you guys are probably echoing the same opinions that I've got. But look, her character was based off of the idea of I'm hot and look at me. All this like sexualized character type work and all that WWE does kind of shouldn't be necessarily ignored as far as like being hypocritical is one element of that. You guys agree?
Absolutely on that side of things. Yeah, they have a long history. Even recently in the PG era, they have, but even much prior to that, definitely even more so in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression era, they had a strong reputation for sexualizing their women, and that being the main focus of their women's division. And so now if they were just targeting someone based on, okay, well, you're being sexy, but you're being sexy on your own, not sexy for us, then that's a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hypocritical to a degree, but we're going to get into certain aspects of this that I do think some lines were crossed. And I think that this is not as black and white as some people have made it. But I also, look, I think it'd be a lot easier to understand WWE's take on this specific incident if they didn't have a terrible history of over-sexualizing their women and just being terrible to their independent contractors in general. But they were in a tough spot here.
I'm glad you didn't say hard. So on the hypocritical side of things, yeah, people do kind of go with this is like a black and white sort of thing. And there are gray areas to almost everything in life. So a lot of times people want to ignore that. I can see the argument on WWE's front of saying, look, we're fine with like Scarlett or whoever posting on Instagram these like bikini photos. And, you know, obviously that's what the whole point of those are, is to be trying to market yourself and sexualize yourself and everything. But when you start getting into supposedly what some of the content was, like that she was just full on having like nip slips and stuff, and there's the thing about like Tino Sabatelli and her and like the shower and like a kind of softcore porn sort of thing. I can see why WWE could be like, look, okay, you pushed the boundary too much and we have to do something. But we don't know if there's actually any kind of contractual like guideline of what people are allowed to do. There might be, there might not be. We're not privy to that information. And there could be reasonable doubt of her being like, you never told me that I couldn't do this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I clearly can't sign up for working for like a Pornhub account and doing flat out like hardcore type stuff like that. But, you know, what's to say that me doing the things that I'm doing isn't just a notch above what everybody else is doing or whatever. There's arguments to that, unless there is something in the contract that states otherwise. But also, when it comes to like their approach to different characters and all, it wasn't that long ago that we had gotten those reports that basically they had said to the NXT women, dress sexier and be more like Mandy Rose, which is at least funny when you think about it, of being like, try to be more like this character who definitely shows quite a bit more skin than a lot of other characters and is all about look at me and how attractive I am. And then she does a thing based off of pay me for looking at me for how attractive I am. But then they go, nah, we don't like that. It is very much like, all right, you're kind of splitting hairs in some ways. Do you think that there's a part of this that has anything to do with the idea that maybe that whole don't make money on outside ventures based off of us thing, and we don't get a taste of that money? Do you think that that's a little part of this?
So she does blatantly reference some WWE stuff, and I mean, like, there is probably an element to that. And I will say this right here and right now: if it's 100%, oh well, we just want the money that you're getting from it, then fuck WWE, and that's wrong. And she should be allowed to do what she wants. But if the argument is you cross the line with the content, then I think that as long as they give her the chance to tone it down, and we don't know if they did or they didn't.
That's another thing to talk about, yeah.
Then they're well within their right.
Do you think it's more of a money thing, Callum?
It's hard to completely ignore it because of just the history that they've shown. Again, this regime is different, but then Mandy started this before this regime took over. She's had this sort of like this fan time account for about a year. So she was doing stuff prior to that. They seem to be like, they can't have not been aware of it. So they must have been okay with her doing it to a certain limit. And then, as Rob's pointed out, it's probably a case of crossing the boundaries. But you have to imagine that there is some kind of monetary aspect to it, just because the way they acted towards people having their own cameos and having their own Twitch streams. The idea of them owning the intellectual property of the name, like Mandy Rose or whatever. So yeah, I don't think that was the primary motive behind this release, but I can't speak, just based on the history, you can't say that it doesn't play somewhat of a factor. I think they're probably more, maybe eyebrows were a bit more raised about the fact that she was probably earning much more money doing this than she was on her NXT contract.
That's interesting too. And I mean, now that she's upped her price, I would assume part of that is because she's not getting this other revenue. I mean, having two sources of income is definitely better, but I'm very curious how much money those two sides are, because if she's making more money on this than she was in NXT, she was one of the few people that was working supposedly on a main roster contract, not one of those NXT contracts that you would see somebody like Hank Walker or somebody with. I don't know why Hank Walker is the first name I thought of, but the fact that she had been on the main roster for as long as she was and all, like, she was probably making a decent enough amount of money. But when you crunch the numbers for some of these things, I've seen people talk about, other different types of celebrities and stuff where it'll be like, this person got X amount of subscriptions in the first couple hours, and based off of their price point, even if they made half as much, like if it goes half to the other site and half to them or something, I don't know what the cuts are, that they would be making like, $700,000 already and stuff. And it's like, that's crazy. First off, I can't imagine just doing that and making that much money offhand, but I can imagine that would be a potential thing, that she could potentially be making more money through this than WWE. If that's the case, she's fine when it comes to, she's destitute now. No, I'm sure she'll be more than fine, especially if she gets picked up somewhere else. We'll talk about that too. But, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of an insult to that. Like, hey, you shouldn't be talking about how you're making more money that way if she talked about it. But it seems mostly like it's just, we don't like that you're posting things that we're deeming too risque.
I mean, I don't even think it's them that think that it's too risque. It's probably sponsors.
Probably, yeah. Because I mean, I highly doubt that like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and all them that have done things in the past that are like pushing the boundaries would be like, my God, this is way, way, way past what we consider okay. It's just, nudity, and not even like full blown nudity when it comes to that either.
Well, when you consider the way they talked about China before putting her in the Hall of Fame, you could see that kind of attitudes. Like, what was it, the things that Triple H said about, you don't want your kids seeing that. It's like, well, don't give your kids a fan time account. That's probably the main thing.
Yeah, if you don't have access to the credit card and all, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, it's very unlikely that your kids are getting access to this to seeing anything that. Again, there was a lot made up about the fact of I think last week there was reports of leaks coming out as well, which obviously exposed a lot more of this stuff to the wider public. And I think the name that's been bandied around as being maybe a contributor to forcing WWE's arm was Mattel.
Oh, Mattel. Okay.
Yeah, and obviously that's a big one for them if that's like their main partner for the action figures. I assume they weren't planning on making a Mandy Rose fan time.
Yeah, like that's another thing. Is like, I mean, look, everybody's got their own subjective opinions of things, and everybody has their like, I'm deeply offended about blah 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 and everything. But I've always been in this mindset, and you can hear this back on podcasts about pro wrestling stuff, and you can hear it about stuff from Fanboys Anonymous, where it's never made any sense to me how in America, in particularly, it seems that like sex and nudity is considered like so vulgar, but then violence is like totally okay. Like you can have way more brutal violence in a PG-13 movie, and you show one boob, and people are like, "My kids are tainted for life," and it's like, what? Like, kind of fucking relax a little bit. And if you're Mattel, like you said, they're not gonna make the Mandy Rose nip slip in a pool action figure set. So just, if you don't want to make a Mandy Rose action figure, then don't make a Mandy Rose action figure. But Barbie has clothes that you can take off, and that didn't friggin' have a problem with that for all those years, right? You know?
I think that it does reek as both a issue that the entire populace has with prudishness and misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and again, they're not apples and oranges. I know that it's the case of, it's not just her posting some slightly risque bikini pics. It goes further than that.
Yeah.
So in a way, you can kind of understand it to a degree. But then you look at stuff like, again, someone I'm going to mention, Matt Riddle. He's just gotten suspended for his second drugs violation. And they don't test for marijuana anymore, so who knows what it is that he's taking at the moment. And then you look at the Usos with the DUIs. I know those things have been brought up. You look at, well, again, someone else will talk about Vince McMahon in a little while and just how far that's gone. And it's just, why is it for them there seems to be a tolerance? I obviously don't have kids, but if I did, I'd probably be more okay with the idea of, again, it's a pairing up thing, but I would be less offended by one of the wrestlers having a softcore, well, the equivalent of softcore porn or whatever, or just one of these accounts, compared to having them watch and become fans of wrestlers that have committed drink driving offenses.
Right, because then you'd be like, look, if you do the one thing, it's really, really bad, and you can injure, if not kill people. And the other thing is, hey, you might have a moral obligation to do something differently, and you might not. You might end up, that might be your primary source of entertainment or income or something, like.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, it's harmless. It's like, it's men and women consenting to show their bodies or do these sort of like actions, earn money from it.
Yeah. And
it's like, as long as they're like, if it's not one of those things like she was cajoled into doing it, which I'm pretty sure is not the case. But yeah, in those instances, obviously that's completely wrong. But it's like sex work in general is something that is so utterly frowned upon when they just think it's such a tawdry or disgusting or morally wrong thing. It's like, first of all, it's like the oldest profession there is. It's like, that's how people have the right to do what they want. If it's completely under their control, they have the right to do what they want with their bodies. And yeah, I think, and Mandy certainly fits that category as well. That's the thing that I have the biggest issue with. It's not the case of like, potentially she was told to rein it in and she didn't listen, and in which case there is a bit of an issue between both sides. It's more just the overarching attitude people have towards sex work, or whatever this equivalent is, and the fact that people who do it aren't morally bankrupt. It's not an awful thing to be involved in. It's just, it's a profession.
Yeah, and who's to say the difference between what she's doing versus the way that, there's sculptures of naked bodies and there's paintings of, nude men and women and everything. And, maybe back then that was considered vulgar, decades and decades or hundreds of thousands of years ago, whatever it might be. And in the future, something like this could be like, yeah, this is art, quote unquote. Art's subjective and everything too. And I'm not going to necessarily argue that this is quote unquote art, but it's like, I could see more of a case for it than other things. And whether you agree or you disagree on a moral side of things, I think one of the bigger stories that we haven't gotten full confirmation about one way or another, and we probably won't necessarily, is whether or not she was warned in advance. Because maybe you can say, look, in their contract, they've got something about you can't make us look bad. And if Mattel or somebody is having an issue with it, supposedly Mandy had said something about, I gotta like slow down what my content is because WWE is paying a lot more attention now a few weeks ago. And if that happened, and if they told her, you can't be posting what you're posting, you're pushing the limit, and she said, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway, then yeah, she deserves to be fired, because then they're telling her, you are approaching a breach of contract, stop. And she opted not to. If those are the metrics, then I support their decision. Still disagree with the idea of it being a breach of contract, because it shouldn't be necessarily. I think that everybody should get it. I mean, if fucking Shelton Benjamin wants to do it, then he should, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. And if you disagree and you think that they shouldn't because you don't want to see that content, you shouldn't pay for it. And that's kind of the end of that fandom. Just like, I don't want to watch NXT Level Up, and I don't, if I don't have to. But if she wasn't warned in advance, which some of the other reports say that she was just like completely blindsided by this idea of being released, then I think that that's absolutely ridiculous, because you didn't even give her an opportunity to say, okay, maybe I'll stop, or maybe I'll tone it down or anything. At the very least, that needed to have happened. This certainly is not something that in my mind it warrants an immediate firing. It's not like she came to work with a bomb strapped around her or something and was like, Jesus Christ, like, you gotta get out of here right now. And, she didn't do anything violent towards somebody else. She didn't go out there and say horribly racist things to the public in a media interview, or, like, there's plenty of reasons why you would fire somebody on the spot. I don't think that this would be one of them.
Yeah, I just want to, real quick, I echo every single thing that you guys said about sex work. Yes, it is the oldest profession. Yes, their body, their choice. People should be allowed to do literally whatever they want. I am in full support of people, being able to make a living that way, because it's opened a lot of doors for a lot of people. And as you just said, Tony, if they wonder, and she was kind of like, I think I'm going to do this instead because I'm making more money this way, that's one thing. If they blindsided her, that's completely fucking wrong. But a lot of these specifics we may never know, And
she might be able to talk about it, or she might have signed some sort of NDA thing where it might expire over time. I don't know. I highly doubt we're going to get some kind of clarification on something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard or something. But another thing
I do want to touch on, because we haven't said it yet, is the idea of leaking paywall content.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, like, don't be a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's just like, there's a reason why it's behind a paywall, and yeah, I know people do that, and like it's even worse when it's obviously hacking in someone's private accounts, like stuff that they never even want to show to anybody. But show a bit of respect. It's like, you're paying for this, and don't feel like you're being like, oh, I'm being kind of a Robin Hood giving away these pictures to the poor. It doesn't work like that. It's their right to, as they sell those images and get the money off of them, so they shouldn't just be exposed to the wider public.
It's funny to think that there's like a Robin Hood account out there going, the way I'm going to make a mark on this world is I'm going to leak Mandy Rose's pictures or something.
But
who would have thought?
There is like a silver lining in this, in that because of how much she was making from this and will continue to make from this, at least this firing doesn't have a immediate impact on her financial situation.
Yeah.
So at least like she's got something that she's immediately going to fall back into. And also there are many other wrestling promotions out there that do not have the same, I guess, strictness towards that attitude. Impact would snap her up immediately. I mean, AEW, there's a good chance as well because they have multiple members of their talent under OnlyFans deals as well. If she wanted to go to Japan, that would easily work for her as well. Or she could just like hang up all together and just
That'd be very shocking. I'd like to see Mandy Rose do some stuff in Japan. That'd be a little different.
But then she could just ride this out for a couple of years, wait until like she's done what she can with this and like made a lot of money off of it, and then tone it back and then go back to WWE because they probably would let her back soon afterwards. So really, she's, even though as we've all mentioned, really, there's, even if there is some sort of understanding as to maybe she did push the boundaries too far, in the grand scheme of things, it probably was a quick fire and rash move to fire her straight out. So, but at least she can do what she wants to do now for a little while and go back when she's good and ready, really.
Yeah, because I could make an argument that instead of firing her, even if she did just kind of go, well, I'm still going to try to push the limits a little bit, it still could have been potentially a suspendable offense as opposed to a firing. Or maybe you dock her pay, or, you know what I mean? Like it's not a black and white situation of you either have somebody employed at their full capacity or you fire them. There's a lot of different ways to punish an employee or to reprimand them in whatever fashion. Or, I mean, taking the title off of her is one thing. It's a kayfabe punishment, but you got to imagine that there's perks that comes along with that too. You know, maybe your merchandise goes up, or maybe you do more bookings on the side, or I don't know exactly how those things work yet, but taking the title off of her, yeah, definitely go with that. If you are mad at her, suspend her, maybe fine her, maybe release, depending on if we get a report that was like they talked to her 5 times and she said no, screw you each time, and then whatever, then I would be kind of curious why they wouldn't have fired her already for it. But I think that this is one of those things that when it blows over, they would welcome her back with open arms. And if she decides to go elsewhere, like you said, Impact would be a group that would, I'm sure, bring her in when it comes to AEW as well. Like Tony Storm has one of these kinds of accounts and everything. So they don't seem to be as much of a prude employer when it comes to that. She doesn't necessarily need to be a part of wrestling at all. I mean, she's got it's a donut shop, right? And maybe she wants to do more modeling, and maybe she wants to try to get into acting or something. There's lots of different options. And if she's making enough money on this, she doesn't need to do anything at all necessarily. But part of me is kind of go ahead.
Well, no, she's done all she can in a lot of ways. Like this NXT run was great. I think it sets her up as someone who left her mark for the future. You know, she had a great main roster run. She did stuff with Otis. Mm-hmm. She doesn't necessarily need to go back, but I do think we will see her back one day.
What was the thing you were going to say,
Cal? I was going to say the final thing. Well, we might want to discuss it even further, but I think something that many people actually haven't discussed about this, which does, I think it still has an important point. It's not as big as just Mandy Rose losing her. But what happens to Toxic Attraction now?
I think they're going to keep the Toxic Attraction name, and that they'll be moving up to the main roster roughly around Royal Rumble time.
Yeah.
Because to say, if they were looking to kind of keep it as a trio and fill the void that Mandy Rose is leaving, I don't think there's a better option than Sonya Deville. Let's put that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, she's not doing anything.
And they have
has
an
immediate
connection.
Yeah.
She teamed with them a little bit in it was like 2 weeks, I think, worth of NXT. Maybe it was only one. I don't remember for sure.
I think that's the most immediately interesting thing to me, besides just what happens next to Mandy Rose or where she goes next is how they're going to actually, just move on from her straight away, because it's like she just lost the title and then she's just going to disappear from TV. The people that don't follow this stuff as closely just think, hang on, there's a woman that was the champion for well over a year and then she lost the title and now she just doesn't exist anymore.
Well, they kind of already did move on from her, didn't they? Because they already taped, 2 weeks worth of NXT TV?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I'm interested to see how they do that. And it's just a case of like JC and Gigi coming out for a match and just not referencing her or mentioning them or anything. Be interesting.
If you had to go with somebody on the roster that you would try to repackage or position as the other member of Toxic Attraction in the Mandy Rose spot, I don't think that's where they're going to go. I don't think it's the right idea anyway, but let's just, shits and giggles. If you had to be like, okay, we're going to take like Dana Brooke and try to make her like the new leader of Toxic Attraction and fill the same void, who do you guys think would fit that role? My gut reaction was Carmella.
That's a good fit. So you could maybe, it depends on like Maxine Dupree. If you just move her away from the Maximum Male models, be more like a mouthpiece for them.
I would much rather see Alexa Bliss do that than to redo the Fiendess thing. I think that could work.
Not happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's unlikely. Anyone else?
Alexa and Carmella are really the only two that I would think of.
Definitely Carmella. That's a great spot for her. As far as anyone else, honestly, she's not yet back in the company, but my brain went, Chelsea Green would enjoy doing that.
Yeah, and she's got some, I think she's got some kind of thing like that too, or something, right? I don't know. She has one of those subscription things. Yeah. I keep track of this.
Stuff, yeah. I think they could also do stuff with if you would bring up Tiffany Stratton with them.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
I think I'd still go either Bliss or Carmella, but I don't think they're going to do anything close to that.
If you wanted to change the vibe slightly and just give Cora Jade some heaters, I think it works.
Here's kind of a transitional topic to go into one of our other big discussions. Do you think that there's any part of them that's trying to save a little bit of face in comparison to the Vince McMahon stuff?
No. Because what face are you saving? Your boss is a horrible predator, so we're going to show that we are against women in other ways too. There you go. We saved her face.
Well, there's a portion of people that would probably justify as like, well, they're trying to say we don't sexualize anybody in this company and we don't stand for any of that kind of stuff outside of our boundaries. We are PG entirely and all.
Oh, please. That would be way worse than anything else.
I'll put it this way. If this was an attempt for them to try and save face and try and win back some goodwill, they failed
miserably
because most people have taken Mandy's side. Yeah,
right.
Most people have taken Mandy's side. So
yeah, I mean the thumbnail for this one is Mandy Rose's releases bullshit. So it's let's talk about the Vince McMahon thing though, because according to those reports, again, take it with a grain of salt. We have this from
this one is less of a grain of salt. This is from the Wall Street Journal, not like Dave Meltzer.
Well, I mean, there's parts of it that could be. We don't know exactly what people said, is what I'm talking about. But the long and short of it is Vince McMahon has more allegations coming his way, does not really want to necessarily pay any of these things, and thinks that he was given bad advice, and that if he would have just kind of waited, that this all would have blown over, and maybe he wants to come back to WWE, which the other reports are basically everybody at WWE going, no, please Please don't. And the idea of being exhausted at the idea that nobody really wants Vince back, that everybody is happier with him gone. You get the stock price took a hit with this story coming out. So obviously people are like, look, the financial well-being of this company, the creative well-being of this company, the morale of the company, like everything pointing in the direction of nobody wants Vince to come back for that, but he is still the majority voter, majority shareholder. And it could be a possibility that Vince McMahon comes back to WWE in some fashion.
I don't know. I know that the report said got some bad advice from someone close to him. I don't know who that person was, but I imagine that they are working overtime to say, no, it's time to move on. Morale is high. You know, we don't need Vince back. And I'm not even just talking like from a creative perspective. It was time, you know, and I think these allegations further punch that in. And it's not something I'm interested in seeing at all.
Yeah, it's clearly like all this stuff is bullshit about. It's not bullshit about Vince probably wanting to come back. He probably does, but just the whole reasoning behind it, saying that he's got bad advice. No, you've got loads of sexual harassment and assault allegations against you. Those
It's not like it's not like somebody was just sort of having a random chat with him one day and they're like, you should probably retire. And he's like, what? You know, I was asking you if you wanted lemonade or root beer or something. And that person's like, no, I hear you want my advice. I think you should probably leave.
But as I think we said in multiple different scenarios beforehand, you can't leap into the mind of a crazy sociopathic billionaire. And the fact of the matter is that he thinks that he beat the FBI, and he beat Congress and all these other people over the steroid trial, and like just beat the Supreme Court, and they survived the lawsuit by the Wildlife Foundation when they had the same name, and then he's literally survived everything. He probably feels like he's bulletproof, and that he was somehow convinced this was the final straw when he, in his mind, probably during and still now thinks, yeah, I'm going to beat all those allegations. There's no way they're going to stick it on me because I'm Vince McMahon and nothing ever gets to me.
I mean, there was the report.
No one will ever kill me.
There was a report from Shawn that literally said the first night when he went out and said, you know, we'll always be together then, now, forever. He went backstage and immediately said, fuck him. So, like, that's his attitude. Fuck him. Like, you know.
Fuck him as in the fans, or fuck him as in the allegations, or
fuck him as in just like the allegations. Well, no, he loved the fans, and the fans gave it right. They gave it right back to him as he wanted at that time. Full on, as Callum said in the recording the other day, the full on bowing and all that. So obviously, it's towards these allegations. I do have to say, I'm not surprised in the slightest.
No, that's another thing.
As WrestleMania is creeping up, you know, I think I want to come back to WWE. Yeah, I made a mistake. The most disappointing thing for me isn't that he's got more allegations, because we probably could have seen that coming. Isn't that, you know, Rita Chatterton is trying to, you know, get some just due after 30 years of maybe being in silence. It's that really Vince couldn't find something else to do. You really want to come back to WWE? I thought, you know, maybe you force him out, maybe he finds something else. And now he just wants to come back. I don't think he can stand the idea of WrestleMania without him. And in that, like, in some ways, it's I don't want to say sad because he's a bad person and he's done some bad things, but it's like, man, you're really just that guy that's just stuck to this job and you don't know your identity outside of it. And it seems that just got worse and worse as the years went on.
It's a shame that there's a lot of things that go along with that. Like, there is clearly an ego part of it. If he would have chosen to step away, then I'm sure this wouldn't have been as much of an issue, as opposed to what he probably feels like, well, I was forced out, and I'm sure in his mind, I was forced out unjustifiably, and like Callum said, nobody could beat me. I beat all these other things and whatever, so I need to prove that I won, even if it's to come back, say I'm back, and then leave on my own terms, the way that a lot of pro wrestling mindsets are. Look at Ric Flair, who really likes digging himself in deeper and deeper and deeper ditches as time goes on, but he had said recently, like, well, Vince is entitled to return and everything, which is like, of course you want to back that. Want to talk about Dark Side of the Ring or what, but the idea being you can't retire because then, well, I think I got one more in me. And it's just a situation that we can all hope Vince doesn't come back in any fashion. Or at the very least, if he gets like placated with like, okay, you can come back and do this, that it has nothing to do with actually controlling anything with the company. That it would just be like, I can't even think of a role that they would put him in that would make any sense, because it's like he can't perform. He can't even really cut promos as much anymore. Nobody would really want to see him be like a manager type, because he's got all these things against him and all that. So it's, I don't know. But
I really feel like it would never be the same, because like even there was a lot of young superstars who before all of this would say, working with Vince is nice, and it's always interesting to learn from the boss. He's got so much experience, wisdom to impart. But after all of this, you can't just kind of go, and I'm back, everybody, and we're all one big happy family again, because people are going to feel some type of way. And I just think that it's best for everybody if he stays away.
They could try and do some sort of thing that they did, the Spanish did with General Franco when he was the dictator for a while, and essentially he got so ill at one point, or he started to lose a bit of like cognitive function, and so they just pretended that he was still the head of state, even though they replaced him. And they just would always keep sending him like, okay, here's some new bills and new laws for you to sign that we need your signage on, and he would just believe that he was still the head of state, even though they were just doing it to placate him. So they could just do that.
That is likely what they will do.
Yeah, here's the latest script for Raw, and then Vince just like, okay, I'm just looking for it. Oh, got to tear all this up, got to change all this. Yes, sir. Yeah, we're not actually doing that. We're just like we're just doing that for him at the moment.
They keep showing him footage of like the next WWE 2K game. It's like they just give him general manager mode.
Yeah. Well, no, they're just showing the same episode of Raw over and over and over again, and he doesn't see any difference.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. They just how like you give kids like toddlers or whatever, you give them a set of keys and they just kind of jiggle it, and they're like, this is the best fucking thing ever because it's making noise. They just give him fake scripts to rip up. They're like, hey, Vince, it's Monday. And he's like, let me rip one. Well, the topic of firings and all, let's talk about a storyline thing that I don't fucking understand. But as far as Monday Night Raw's results go, and, talking TV talk and kind of factoring this in here, we got some stuff with Bobby Lashley where he had a match with Seth Rollins. This was one of those uneventful types of episodes of Raw. It was like, yeah, Alexa Bliss beat Bayley, and she almost did the Sister Abigail to Bianca, but so they'll have a match. Who fucking cares? But the Bobby Lashley thing turned into Lashley getting fired by Adam Pearce, only for Adam Pearce to then do a thing on Twitter being like, I shouldn't have fired him. I'm still mad at him, but he's not fired. The hell you think that the purpose of this is?
That they realize that it's not 1998 anymore, and you can't just fake fire someone when you the next day are like, come see our upcoming UK tour featuring Bobby Lashley. And I think that's what it is more than anything, that they probably wanted to do something fun where Lashley is quote unquote fired, but they realize that it's impractical to do that now that things are different.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that has been building up, so at least it made storyline sense because he has been beating up officials and Adam Pearce has been warning him, so it makes sense that you do the whole firing angle. But as Rob says, if you're then just going to advertise, I mean, you could just tell the story that the social media team just didn't know, or they were too slow on the pickup, and there was just an errant tweet that got through or something. But I think that, yeah, if you are going to continue to advertise him on these shows and not follow through in the firing angle, but then just taking him off everything and, like, you know, waiting until you have a storyline reason to bring him back, then yeah, it's probably better they retcon it.
I mean, they could have gone with the whole suspended indefinitely thing. They could have said something like, you're fired from, or you're suspended from Monday Night Raw, but not for the live events, or I don't know, like, because the live events don't fucking matter. Who cares? I think if you go into it and say you're suspended and then he pops up on a live event, people just go, oh, cool. It doesn't matter. It's not like canon or anything.
That's the problem. That's why I think they just decided, let's not do that, you know?
Part of me thinks that the only reason that they did this was because they thought it would be interesting if you had people talking about the idea of a firing, and they don't really have any plans for it to be a story. So they're already backtracking on it. It was just like, it would be fun if, and then we'll figure it out. But I hope that this regime doesn't do the same sort of thing. On the same episode, though, we got Matt Riddle being written off television for, I mean, the report says it's a wellness policy violation. Potentially his second. And here's where we start bouncing around other things where one thing I read earlier today, I don't know if it's anything trustworthy or whatever. I think it might have been from Inc. or something, about that maybe Matt Riddle's actually taking time off for divorce proceedings. But a lot of the other talk, and it's probably true when it comes to this, is more so about the idea that he failed a second wellness policy for something that's not marijuana, for anybody that's wondering, because they don't fail you for that anymore. They just, they've reached a point where they're like, this is ridiculous. Let's just kind of move on. But that he might have even failed not just recently, but a while back. And this could be his suspension based off of that. And maybe that ties all the way back to when he wasn't wrestling Seth Rollins originally, and they ended up doing the whole, was it SummerSlam or was it, I forget which event that was. And then they waited for Clash at the Castle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, maybe he took a couple weeks off there for part of a suspension, and this is the rest of it. And Rollins, was supposed to fight him at SummerSlam and whatever. It's one thing for us to speculate and to just be like, so what do you think is happening? Because we don't fucking know. But overall thoughts on this whole Matt Riddle situation. What do you guys got?
I think that if it is for wellness issues and it is to go to rehab, I hope he gets the help he needs. If it's for divorce proceedings, then we'll see at the Royal Rumble. I think either way we see him at the Royal Rumble, but one is a case of, God, I hope you get the help you need, and the other is a case of, yeah, whatever, go do what you got to do. I think, as again, we've talked a lot about Matt Riddle being overexposed this year. Absence will make the heart grow fonder, perhaps. Maybe if it is a wellness issue, we won't lean so heavily into the stoner bro stuff, even though, they're not testing for weed. But it always sucks to see a top star potentially go down for any personal matter. So at the end of the day, I just hope he's all right on the back end of it.
Yeah, from a pure creative standpoint, I think that the break is good for Riddle, just due to, let's say, he's been overexposed, and over the last few months, basically since the end of the Rollins feud, he's been doing nothing of value. And just been teaming with Elias and just treading water until Randy Orton hopefully ever comes back. But I think that, if he is going to rehab for a wellness violation, then I hope he gets the treatment that he needs to beat this and come back. And I'm going to and I know I've seen a lot of people take a bit more of a stern turn to this when, you know, it wasn't like that long ago, like about a year ago, that John Moxley was doing the same thing. People seem to be far more in support, and I know that's probably due to the fact that Riddle has a bit more of a controversial personality and has more of a controversial past associated with him, which we won't delve too deeply into, but people that know what you're talking about there. And yeah, if it is divorce proceedings or it's to do with, there was that report going around that apparently they'd agreed as part of the proceedings that WWE would be sending their drugs test to his, well, I don't know if it's still his wife or his former wife or however you want to term it, and but so they have a record of his drug testing, and WWE weren't aware of this, that Riddle had agreed to do that. Yeah, again, there's a lot of reports out there about all the stuff that's going on, but either way, it probably just is best right now that he's just taking a break away from the ring, and hopefully he comes back in a better shape and in a better frame of mind than he is probably right now.
At the very least, it seems there's no chatter that he's injured. With the idea being like, okay, well, Shotzi, for instance, is apparently legitimately injured. Raquel is fake injured, and they write Riddle off TV for an injury, but could be a suspension, it could be a rehab thing, it could be a divorce thing, it could be a whole laundry list of other alternatives. But the idea is nothing's come out there about like he's dealing with nagging neck issues or he broke his wrist or, you know, I mean, anything that goes along with those. But if it's something where he can pop back up at the Royal Rumble, hopefully that's for the good reasons and not just them rushing anything. Because the last thing you need, if it is a rehab situation, is for them to be like, you need to go to rehab, but we need you back by January, whatever, you know, like this, because then sometimes those things take a little bit longer than a couple weeks of what's convenient. And if it's the divorce stuff, I mean, that's another whole, like, you know, that's personal stuff that nobody really needs to get into. But a lot of, like, for this time of the year, for us to have 4 stories based off of the idea of like firings and releases and suspensions and all, and then to go into this story, which I think is an interesting thing that we can speculate a little bit more about too. WrestleVotes, who is generally speaking very reputable of having a good track record, had reported that a handful of the rehired talent that Triple H had brought back over the course of the past few months have been viewed as underperforming and basically underwhelming, which has to start speculating. Are we talking about just Hit Row, or are we talking about some other people on top of Hit Row?
Well, fuck, I wasn't going to go there. Like,
if you didn't know, now you know.
All right.
It's
has to
gotta
right.
be, yeah, it's gotta be at least, if it's not just them, they have to be part of what's being talked about here.
Yeah, I mean, among a lot of ones that have been disappointing returns, I mean, we go down the list. It's obviously not Io Sky and Dakota Kai. I mean, Io was never released per se anyway, but it's definitely not Dakota Kai. They're performing excellently. I don't think it's Karrion Kross. I don't think like what he's done has been disappointing. It's just like I'm disappointed because I just think that he's not very good. But I think based on what they think is good for him, he's probably up to standard. Hit Row have been a disappointment. It's way too soon to tell with Sarah Logan. The only other one that would potentially be the case is Braun Strowman, I'd say.
There's also Loomis and the Garganos.
I think that they like that enough, though.
I mean,
yeah,
I think they might not find it underwhelming.
Well, no, but I think that the fact the crowd, for the most part, has reacted a lot to the Loomis thing. We may not like it because I think that it's a pretty bad feud, in my opinion. But a lot of people do seem to like it, so I think that my judgment of that shouldn't impact everyone else. It could be Gallows and Anderson.
Could be that, but then you got what you were paying for. It's exactly what they did before.
Wrestling in New Japan. Based on how shittily Anderson is wrestling in New Japan right now, I wouldn't be surprised. That's the one match I'm not looking forward to at Wrestle Kingdom when we talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, your mileage may vary, of course. You know, like I like an act more like a Braun Strowman act, even if he's not doing as good as he used to be. He's certainly not the way that Braun Strowman was a couple years ago. I mean, he looks better, I should say that. But they didn't position him in that kind of a role. And your mileage certainly varies, I'm sure, when it comes to Bray Wyatt, and where I am in that whole, like, this sucks and you need to do something, which there's yet another tease tonight of, like, I wouldn't miss SmackDown if I were you, because Bray Wyatt's going to do something. It's like, oh, what's he going to do? Cut a promo about how he is upset over his violent tendencies, and then his third or fifth or whatever the fuck mask is going to go, fuck you, pal, or something, and that's it. Okay, fine. But when it comes to a lot of the talent, like the, you know, Johnny Gargano types and all, if they're getting enough of a reaction, I can't justify them being here. Hit Row, I don't see anybody supporting Hit Row online. Whenever there's like a tweet about it, it's always the hashtag shit row. You know, just putting the little dollar sign there for top dollar. And you got the idea of like bringing back Tegan Nox. If Tegan Nox is already on that list, poor fucking girl. She's done nothing. She doesn't deserve to be in that range whatsoever. And Valhalla, I mean, maybe there's a ceiling on Sarah Logan, but she still hasn't really done anything. So what would be underwhelming when it comes to that, you know?
And as far as like an Emma, listen, you're booking Emma to lose all her.
Yeah,
you can't put that on poor Emma.
I haven't been really liking anything that Emma's done so far, but she's done 3 things. She popped up, did a match, had like a backstage segment where I forget, it was like Aaliyah or somebody or whatever, that she was just like, oh, hey, like I'm back. And then she is hitting on Madcap Moss now. Okay. Yeah, it's not great, but like this wouldn't be the type of, oh man, I'm fucking regretting bringing you in here. I think it's got to be more of the Hit Row side of things, but
I think there could just be an in general, like we can, if we look at Cross, we can say, well, he's certainly not rubbing elbows with Roman Reigns as he did for the first couple of weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
Cross is somebody to pay a little bit more attention to, I think, because he has fallen for sure.
Like I think it's more a case of maybe even the ones we like a Johnny Gargano or a Candice LeRae. Maybe there's just an overall of, okay, well, we got them back, but now we need to ignite a spark again because just having them here isn't doing it.
You think we're going to see any potential releases out of this group anytime soon?
No. Again, this is about building goodwill. You can't just go, oh, sucks to suck, you underperformed, pack your bags.
I don't know. I don't think many people would be too upset if Hit Row released again, which as sad as it sounds.
We're acting like Scripps is in the group, guys. What are we doing here? No, like I agree. Like I guess there's a lot of fans who wouldn't be bothered, but I think it still would be a bad look for the company, seeing as you just brought them back.
I think it's something to pay attention to. I think we could maybe, I mean, we don't know how the releases are going to work under the Triple H regime. I keep saying the Triple H regime, but I hope that everybody knows every time I refer to that, it's the Triple H, Nick Khan, and Stephanie McMahon regime, because Triple H isn't co-CEO. But they might have a different philosophy to releases. They might just be more of the individual, look, we're going to let people go one by one on a case-by-case basis, like the Mandy Rose thing, or they might actually like the mass release thing. And we could get a situation where post WrestleMania, maybe they do the draft like the rumor has been, and maybe they look at the roster again and they go, shit, we have nothing for these 5 people. Let's just kind of get rid of them and say, maybe there's something in their contract that says we're bringing you back, but it's on a little bit of a probational thing, and we've opted not to continue that, kind of like the William Regal stuff with having an out after a year or something. All that like red tape and all, we don't have any clue about how that works, but it wouldn't shock me if by at least mid 2023, if somebody's gone and we end up going, haha, so it was that one. You know? Let's pivot away a little bit from all these negative topics and talk about something that could be more on the fun side if it happens. I don't think it will, but here's a part of the rumors and gossip and all of the hot tags. Kevin Owens reached out to Shawn Michaels and said, "You want to have one more match?" Did we go with Kevin Owens as our
I was going to
thing?
say, I don't want to talk about that because we already did a whole podcast where we decided if Shawn Michaels has one more match in a singles capacity, it's Kevin Owens.
Right? So, I mean, we did that how many years ago at this point? Probably 2 years ago, three?
Three, four, maybe. Maybe it was.
I think it was almost in the immediate aftermath to
Crown Jewel, yeah.
It was 2018, September 5th.
So 4 years ago, we told you that Kevin Owens should face Shawn Michaels.
If it ends up happening, which I don't think it will, then I'm just going to start quoting Koskov from The Living Daylights again. I told you, I told you the British would believe me. Chris British, I don't have anything to do with it, but I mean, we went with yeah. Well, Callum's in agreement, so it's not that he has to believe. But I mean, we talked about the idea of like, hey, an AJ Styles match would be cool. Or at the time, Triple H wasn't completely done with wrestling, so it was like, hey, he was an option. Roman Reigns was an option. Daniel Bryan was still in the company. Seth Rollins, The Rock. At the time, we had Velveteen Dream as one of the options, and we saw how that worked out. But yeah, time makes fools of us all, doesn't it?
Yes.
I don't know if I would be like, okay, if I'm Shawn Michaels, if I would think to myself, look, I'll step back in the ring. Or if I would approach it more with the idea of the last time I stepped in the ring, it was Crown Jewel, and the only reason why the match wasn't even worse is because I'm Shawn fucking Michaels. But part of me, if I am Michaels, would be thinking, the last time I stepped in the ring was Crown Jewel, and do I really want that to be my last match? Fuck that.
That's kind of piggybacking off of what Shawn reported about this, which is, yes, Michaels was approached, and Michaels said, hey, look, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it with you after what you did with Austin, but I don't think I should. So essentially, probably, last time I wrestled, it was Crown fucking Jewel, and I shouldn't do that again.
I'd love to see it.
I would too.
Yeah, I mean, in a general term, and I felt the same way about Austin before the match that happened with Kevin Owens, is that your final match was so good, why ruin that legacy? But then with Michaels, he already ruined that legacy.
So who cares?
Yeah, so him actually wrestling a match with Kevin Owens, and fundamentally, in that tag match they had at Crown Jewel, Michaels was the best part of that match.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I think you could still do it. I think you could still have one great match left in with Owens, and that could leave a better taste in the mouth than the final memory we're ever going to have of Shawn Michaels being in the ring.
I will say, though, I want, if they don't go, which I don't think that they're going to do, I don't think that we're going to get Sami Zayn beating Roman Reigns for the title. So if they don't go with Triple H, I'm reading the Triple H thing that I just clicked out of. If they don't go with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos at Mania, there's nothing that stands out to me of what Kevin Owens should do. And if you turn him heel and you have him fight Shawn Michaels, like, even if it makes no sense whatsoever of just, he's a heel now and he's calling out Michaels, whatever, I'd be like, fuck, all right, you sign me up. But maybe wait until next year. Maybe WrestleMania 40.
Don't sound like the present. Like, if you're going to do it, just do it.
I am going to say the likelihood that we get Shawn Michaels versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania is like, I mean, 2% or something. You know, like, it's not.
If it did, I'm fucking all for it, man.
Right.
Shawn Michaels still.
And if that were to happen, again, if, you know, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Then at that point, you got to start looking at Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin as just two of a growing trend of being like, well, there's an Undertaker streak, and there's a Kevin Owens bring somebody out of retirement streak, and you know, and then you just start going, fuck it, Kevin Owens next year, who are you bringing out of retirement? You know? You're gonna have a match with The Rock. You're gonna have a match with I don't know, fucking Bret Hart, like whatever it might be. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, I'm in the camp of if they can do it and they're not Flair's last match level,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. Like, I want to see Sting wrestle every time he does it because he still looks like Sting and he's still really doing some crazy shit, And if Shawn wanted to do it, he'd probably have to shave his head again because he doesn't look like Shawn Michaels, but we've already seen him wrestle bald, and
Get a
I'd be
wig,
all right with
glue it on.
Glue it on.
Yeah, it's the thing from fucking The Simpsons where they glued on that like multicolored wig on George Bush Sr. It's just crazy glue. Staple it, duct tape, whatever you need to do. Be Shawn Michaels again.
But I would always be for Shawn Michaels wrestling.
All right, spin a wheel. Are we talking ROH? We're talking Impact, or we're talking New Japan?
Probably Ring of Honor. That's still fresh in the mind.
Reports being that Ring of Honor is going to most likely tape out of the same location that they used for AEW Dark, which seems even more like tapping out.
AEW Dark.
Yeah, that it's AEW Dark that happens to feature a few talent that are on Ring of Honor with a Ring of Honor logo on it, and that you have to pay for. Really feels underwhelming when they start the year earlier for months and months back, where it's like, I bought Ring of Honor, and like, yeah, we got all this entertainment, or there's all this like joy heading towards that, and it could end up being this big thing, whatever. And by the end of the year, it's like, well, nobody fucking wants it, so I already said we can't put it on YouTube, or else that'll look shitty for me to do it. So we're gonna do basically the same as Dark, and blah.
Okay, I'm not as grim as you are about it. Jeez. I think it's not a bad move for your first set of tapings. I would like to see them eventually branch out and be their own company and do their own thing. And theoretically, I guess I'd be fine with it if it wasn't for the fact that they already do Dark at the soundstage in Universal, because it's a fine setting for a small wrestling company. I guess that means I should really try to go to one of these, shouldn't I? Being in the Florida area, I should probably try that. And if it leads to Private Party or any of the people that are signed to this company actually being featured on any programming, I'm still all for it at the end of the day. I just want to ask questions like, cool, now that you have the infrastructure of Honor Club, how comfortable do you feel about an AEW streaming platform? What are the steps that we need to take for that? Because like, there's a lot of cool stuff to this Ring of Honor move that I feel like people just aren't asking about. One of them being, wow, I didn't expect you to go with Honor Club. Does that mean that, are streaming platforms more viable for you now that you're actually doing it? But I could go off on how I think people are asking the wrong questions.
I think I personally think it boils down to that they couldn't get a TV deal, that they had to resort to Honor Club. I'm not saying that's necessarily the bad thing or the huge, horrible mess. It's a huge atrocious thing that's going to be the thing that they've resorted to. I think it's a fine alternative because there's definitely enough groundswell of fans to want to watch Ring of Honor, and especially if you make people more exclusive to Ring of Honor, like a Samoa Joe or Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, people like that, they will get people to watch the show. And yeah, it's going to be filmed in the same place with Dark, but it's going to have storylines and it's going to have actual segments outside of just, match with Jobber. It's going to be
Tony
a
tried to
lambast, build talent on. Yeah. It's going to be a place that you can actually build talent and storylines and rivalries on. And at least they have had some exposure on AEW, so there might be some people that say, okay, I'm just going to sign up for the Honor Club thing and do it. It's not going to be huge by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll be another source of revenue. And I don't think, and hopefully at the very least, the costs of putting those shows on in one location will be offset by the number of subscribers they get. In terms of streaming service for AEW, I think they're probably still far away from that because of the TV deal. And regardless of whether streaming is the future, which I'm pretty certain it will be for AEW and WWE and pretty much any other wrestling promotion, you they're still getting way too much money from TV to make that a sensible decision for them. So this is a step for them to make up for the fact that they won't be able to feature Ring of Honor on TV. And realistically, even if they did get Ring of Honor on TV, it probably would have been an awful time slot on like a Saturday or something. Just like a time when nobody is watching TV. So this is the best result all round. Get to use the Universal studio a little bit more. Get to get some more fans into it. Showcase some talent there. Could be a good feeder territory for like some of the younger stars. Like this seems like a perfect breeding ground for people like Private Party and the Guns, and you could use it to build up people like this Action Andretti guy that we'll be talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I'm certainly not downhearted about it, and I probably will be subscribing to Honor Club once they get started with this. Because
is it not available in the UK?
Oh, it is. But I'm waiting until the show actually starts before I subscribe for it.
I do want to commend what they did with Honor Club, because all of the content is there. Every single Ring of Honor show, TV or otherwise, and I think that's really cool, because when you start a new streaming platform, you want all of that stuff there so people can get familiar. So I actually think Honor Club is a pretty decent deal if you're a fan of, Ring of Honor currently, or even just guys like AJ and Punk and Owens and Zayn.
I currently have no plans on signing up for Honor Club.
I'm shocked.
You have been shooketh, I know. Yeah, I'm not paying for that. Another show I'm not watching is Impact Wrestling, and a new person that is joining that is Jonathan Gresham. Makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it's one of the alternatives. You're not going to be in WWE, you're not going to be in AEW, so Impact is pretty much one of the only places for you to go. And your wife works there, so why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess, but I still think he's a little bit better than it. I think I wanted to see Gresham on a main stage having great technical matches with Danielson and Punk, and my 2022 just didn't go my way. I mean, in terms of guys going where I wanted them to and being healthy and able to do so.
That Adam Cole versus Jonathan Gresham match in AEW.
That's just not happening, I guess. But Gresham is great. I'm glad he's not just straight up done with wrestling, as was feared following Death Before Dishonor. And I hope he has a good time at Impact.
Yeah, it seems like the most sensible move. He gets to be in the same show with his wife. And he'll have some good matches there. He's definitely going to be launched into a feud with like Josh Alexander. Got plenty of other former Ring of Honor names that he can mix up with again. And being as part of Impact means that he's got a pretty direct avenue to New Japan as well. So he could probably do things on New Japan Strong and do stuff in New Japan and still work independence, and probably continue to do his what was his promotion again?
Terminus.
Yeah, do more Terminus shows as well. And he'll probably show up on GCW. Impact is a great place to have somewhat of a platform and get a consistent contract, but then also have the freedom to pretty much do whatever else you want to do. Because Impact only tape like once a month, if that. So yeah, and then you've got pretty much freedom to do whatever else you want to do in the meantime. So yeah, I think it's the best place all round for him right now if he doesn't want to be in AEW and doesn't think that he'll get featured heavily enough in WWE due to his size.
When you were saying what's his promotion, I couldn't think of Terminus, and for some reason my brain was like, I don't know, Battle Pro or something, which apparently is some like esports thing.
Well, thinking of Battle Slam, which is a sister promotion to Terminus.
There's some part of my subconscious that's like Battle something's involved and whatever. Well, you did bring up New Japan. So let's talk about this topic. The final card is set for NJPW's Wrestle Kingdom 17 event coming on January 4th, which we may or may not end up doing something based off of like a post show. It all kind of depends. I have no like tentative like set plans about the idea of like, okay, well, we're going to do a post show immediately following at this point. Let me make up all the graphics and do all the things that I normally do. But that's because the time frame is the way that it is. And I'm sure that part of me is just going to be like, I think I'd rather sleep or something, but we will at least do true predictions when it comes to this over the course of the next episode of the Hot Tags, the week leading up to this. We're going to record that on like the 28th, so we will dive deeper into this, but the card is set right now as far as everything other than like participants TBA for the New Japan Ranbo to determine who will challenge for the provisional KOPW 2023 trophy. Fill me in a little bit on that. What is this trophy?
So it's the King of Pro Wrestling trophy, which was brought into existence about 2 years ago, I think. I think that was Wrestle Kingdom 15 it started. So this is essentially a trophy that's defended all year round, and someone holds it, and obviously it passes it around. But then it only runs from Wrestle Kingdom to the day before the next Wrestle Kingdom. And so this one is they do the Rambo, which is essentially their equivalent of a Royal Rumble. And then that helps determine who's going to be the people who will battle for the provisional King of Pro Wrestling trophy, and then whoever wins it can defend it in the special thing about the King of Pro Wrestling trophy is that when a person challenges for it, both the champion and the challenger put forward stipulations for the matches, and they can be any stipulation you want. You can think of, like, we've had sumo matches, we've had Iron Man style matches, we've had like anything, just like ranging from like 2 out of 3 falls to first person to like do a. Oh, actually, yeah, there's the match that I'm trying to remember. It was a match who can do the most suplexes in a match in a 10-minute match.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, and it's just any gimmick like that, and that's all that the King of Pro Wrestling thing is for. And so it's a really fun thing, and it's mainly been held by people like Toru Yano was the first kind of champion, and he's like one of the big comedy guys in New Japan. But then most of last year it was held by Shingo Takagi, who's a former world champion, so give it a bit of prestige. And yeah, so I'm interested to see who will end up winning this one and carry on that legacy, because it's a fun little innovation that they came up with.
Yeah, I actually think it's something that Tony would like a lot because it allows for a lot of creativity.
Has anybody ever done anything like Zack Sabre Jr. is the champion, and he's like, all right, my stipulation is the winner is the one with the name Zack Sabre Jr. You start the match. Oh, look at that. Look what my name is.
I'm looking at.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm looking at some of the matches right now. So the first one was on the road to Tokyo Dome, where Toru Yano first won it. And he defeated Bad Luck Fale to win the trophy in a body slam or no corner pads match. So the rules were that there were no corner pads because Toru Yano doesn't like wrestling with corner pads because he likes throwing people into the exposed turnbuckle. And Bad Luck Fale's role in that match was to try and body slam him to win. Whereas Toru Yano had to pin him, but he wanted to make sure there were no corner pads available, so he could help win him even more. And you've had like a no DQ I quit matches. There's a load of like 4-ways and triple threats. You got an end of year party rules match, which I can't even remember happening, but that was apparently something. A dog cage match, which I can only imagine was Kennel from Hell, but good. And then a no rope ring out match, which was the sumo match. And then Shingo Takagi defeated Taichi for the trophy in a 30 count pinfall match. Which was, and I actually remember watching this because this was actually a lot of fun, where essentially they're doing a match and it's the first person to get 30 counts. So it's essentially like
it's not like you have to pin somebody for a count of 30. So they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I kicked out at 29.
Now that would be a bit much, but it's more a case of you just like you get a 1 count, then it counts as 1, and then you're just the first person to get to 30.
I like this.
You'd really like this. You'd really like this trophy, Tony.
Yeah.
It's much better than 24/7 championship.
It sounds like it. It sounds like they actually are like, let's do some fun, interesting ideas that we aren't pigeonholed into just doing the same thing a million times. That's cool. That's one of the things I didn't know about it. Some of these matches have been already teased, and some of these matches I don't know anything about whatsoever because I don't know the people. And when it come down to predictions, I'm just going to be spitting out some random shit. But we've got like Bolton Oleg against Ryohei Oiwa. I don't know. Pronounce it.
Yeah, so this is one that I had absolutely no idea about.
It's like 3 minutes long, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, I don't
They
either.
don't even have Wikipedia pages.
I looked at the picture and I'm like Oleg because he looks like a guy who can win in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not going to predict it yet because it'll just be.
We'll do our
next,
predictions
but,
later on, but
yeah, but I have no idea. I can't give you any insight into that whatsoever.
Generally speaking, when you look at this card, which people can find on plenty of different things, Wikipedia and all, is there anything that stands out to you as like the weird things or like the particularly notable, like, oh my God, that's going to be so amazing and all? I mean, you could assume that Jay White against Kazuchika Okada is going to be a good match. You could assume Will Ospreay against Kenny Omega is going to be great, all those things. But is there any like standout? I didn't expect them to announce this type stuff.
Yeah. Muda Wrestling. I'm glad he's doing that. That's really cool.
I like the grandpa match they're doing for the memorial for Antonio Inoki.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
The grandpa match.
Obviously, it's something that we will talk about more with the predictions, but there is good reason to be watching the Kairi versus Tam Nakano match for the IWGP Women's Championship, because who knows who might show up.
Mandy Rose.
There you go.
I'm super excited for the Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ren Narita match. For the
I think it'll be a big moment for Narita.
So it's crowning the first New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Champion.
They need more fucking belts.
The thing about this is,
yes, Tony. Yes, they do.
They could lose the junior heavyweight tag titles. I'd be fine with that. But this is it's a nice little thing because it's been built around shorter matches. So every match has I think a 15-minute time limit. So it's more kind of fast paced, and they've done a good job of building Narita up for this as well. I guess he is still technically a young lion, but he's the kind of the standard bearer young lion now, and he's beaten a lot of more creditable names leading into this. And Zach will give him a great match because Zach gives pretty much anyone a great match.
Absolutely.
They have 12 championships going on right now. I'm just counting.
Yeah.
And I still kind of don't see the point in some of the specifics of like that junior heavyweight thing and never open weight, strong open weight tag team. It just doesn't seem like this makes any sense to me, but whatever.
Well, the strong stuff is for New Japan Strong, which is their American promotion. So they don't cross over as much with the quote unquote the ones that they show on New Japan, the Japanese championships. Like none of the strong
Sometimes.
championships have been defended on this card. Yeah.
So I'm interested in some of these matches, and then some of them I'm just completely ignorant of, so I can't really be like the participants in the Antonio Inoki thing, I couldn't even tell you who most of them are.
At the end of the day, it's super cool that we've got AEW talent mixed with WWE talent. There's a lot of coming together at the start of the year, and I think that's the way wrestling should be.
Is there anything that stands out to you guys as like this is going to be the drizzling shits?
Well, I think
Carl Anderson versus Tama Tonga. And it's nothing to do with Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga's great, and he's gotten so much better in the last year or so as a singles guy, because due to the fact that his brother's been injured, or cousin. I can't remember. Is his cousin or brother?
I believe it's his brother. I think he's adopted, but they're brothers.
Oh yeah, that's right. But but Carl Anderson's just been phoning it in so much. And I really used to like Carl Anderson. I thought he was so sound in the ring, but he's just sleepwalking through matches at the moment. And I can't really say that I'm just due to the fact that how this title's been treated over the last year. I can't say I'm the most excited about the 4-way for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. The people involved are all, 3 of the people involved are really good, and then there's Master Wato.
He's gonna win, just to piss you off.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, just to piss me off. He'll win, but yeah, they haven't done a lot with the junior title because fundamentally the plan was probably to put the title on Kushida, and then Kushida got injured, and so his return to New Japan has been completely had the legs cut away from it straight away. So they've had to resort to this instead. But and again, it will probably still be a fine match. It's just not one that I'm super looking forward to.
I didn't know that Kushida was injured. I was wondering why he wasn't on the card, but that makes a lot of sense. We got a couple more hot tags, funny enough, to still talk about here. One of them being Chris Jericho's cast in a wrestling horror movie. I'm going to read what this what this breakdown is, because I purposely didn't read it ahead of time to get my full reaction to it. Andreas Wiseman of Deadline is reporting that he will lead the cast for this wrestling themed horror movie, starring a bunch of people that I've never heard of in my entire life. So that's something. I'm assuming Michael Eklund might be like the son of Robert Eklund. I don't know. Per Wiseman, Dark Match features a small-time wrestling company traveling to a backwoods town for a show that ultimately the leader of a mysterious cult has devious plans for their event.
So this is the Uncle Howdy payoff. Got it.
This doesn't sound great. I'm assuming Chris Jericho is going to ham it up, and this is going to be based off of the cast of these people that I don't know. Terrible B-movie horror crap.
Yeah, but that's what makes it
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, as long as it's probably gonna be B-movie crap, but as long as it's funny B-movie crap, then I'm totally down for it. And yeah, Jericho is also going to be the one of the two executive producers for the movie, which means that Fozzy soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it'll be some kind of a watch along that we do.
We should do more wrestling related movie watch alongs.
Yeah, it could be a fan-announce table / fan tracks for Fanboys Anonymous. I don't like horror movies as it is, to the bane of my wife, who is obsessed with them and would rather watch a horror movie than anything else. But I am also not as big of a fan of so bad that it's good type movies, even if it's not horror. So that whole division of entertainment media is lost on me of it's really bad. And it's, a slasher film of like this porn star level acting and all, but isn't that what's cute and kitschy and fun about it? I'd rather just not watch it. So we'll see. Maybe Dark Match becomes something that we do in 2023 or 2024, whenever it gets released, about the idea of kind of getting into that and watching that. But I'd rather watch it for a podcast and do like a live reaction than to just flat out watch it. If it comes down to that, it's not happening probably. On the TV stuff, let's go back and talk about anything else that we need to kind of recap. Monday Night Raw, I'm not looking and seeing anything that we didn't already touch on. Pretty much did all that discussion. SmackDown tonight, we've got a couple things that they're going to have an Intercontinental title match. I think we're all in agreement. Gunther is going to retain, right?
Yeah. I don't see why you would
have
him lose.
Who do you got between Viking Raiders, Legado, and Hit Row in a triple threat?
I've got Callum and you going to make a sandwich during this match.
I don't have enough material for a sandwich. I got to go to the grocery store.
And I can't make sandwiches when I'm sleeping.
Well, I'm going with Viking Raiders.
Yeah, it's Viking Raiders.
All three of them can wrestle. Not that Selena can't, but
yeah,
I think they're going with Viking Raiders tough. The other two not. So
Tegan Nox, Liv Morgan have a shot at the tag team titles tonight. I don't think they're winning.
They could. They switch these belts a lot, so why not?
Yeah, who cares?
WWE doesn't. And let's go to Dynamite. Talk about winners coming. Positives, negatives, anything that goes along with that. MJF retained the Dynamite Diamond Ring and the World Championship over Ricky Starks.
Really fun match. I like these two working together. This is the biggest thing AEW's done that feels like AEW in a long time, and I want to see more of them in the ring together.
Yeah, it was classic old school MJF heel shtick against a fiery babyface in Ricky Starks, and yeah, even though the result was never in doubt, it was still a very good match.
Anything else to stood out to you guys from Dynamite?
Oh, this show was great. It was from almost top to bottom. There's pretty much nothing that I disliked from this show. It was the you get the next match in the best of 7 series. Most interesting is not just the fact that the Death Triangle won, and so they're 3-1 up now. It's the announcement of the 3 potential other matches that we're going to have, which are next week we're going to have a no disqualification match. The week after that is going to be if it goes to that one, which it will, obviously, it's going to be Falls Count Anywhere. And then the final match, which it also will definitely go to, which will be the week after Wrestle Kingdom, is going to be a ladder match. And yep. I have seen a lot of ladder matches in the past year or so, but if it's these 6 guys against each other, then I'm pretty down to seeing it.
I'll just say right now, I've never seen a 6-tag ladder match. So.
Not that's ever been an actual ladder match. Obviously, I've seen the TLC match between the Shield and Ryback and Team Hell No.
Yeah, that doesn't count though.
Yeah, but this one is an actual ladder match with 3 titles hanging up. That's gonna be weird as well. They're gonna need an extra long thing to hold all 3 of those titles up. But that'll be fun. And then obviously one of the biggest talking points, Action Andretti defeated Chris Jericho. They did their own Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 kid moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. The match was really good. And the crowd on the show was so great. They need to come to this place more often. It was was it Dallas?
It was Dallas, yeah.
Yeah, they need to go to Texas.
Garland, wasn't it?
Because
Garland, Texas, Curtis Culwell Center.
Oh yeah, it was probably near.
It's the Dallas area. Don't start splitting hairs here, Tony. We're in Texas.
But either way, they need to come to Texas more often because that crowd was on fire throughout the entire show. And yeah, we also got to see Ty Mello versus Ruby Soho. It's probably the best matches that either of those 2 have had all year. And maybe in Ruby's case, since she joined the company, they were really like going at each other. It was a very physical match. And you get to see House of Black just squash the Factory.
I think the Factory is done. So after this match, QT put up a tweet that was like, "The Factory was a lot of fun." And I don't know if he's like hamming it up like, well, they're dead now, or if he's just like, yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. Which either way, they had a good run.
Well, it was. Yeah, the one thing that maybe potentially intrigued me with that is that Nick Comoroto got sprayed with the Black Mist. And they have had a history of potentially Black Mist leading to someone joining a faction. So maybe Nick Comoroto is joining the House of Black.
Good for Nick. Good
That's
old,
the hope.
Your wrecking ball going through there.
Ogarelli, yeah.
I mean, him and Brody King would be a big monster tag team.
I think that would be a cool way to go with it.
But yeah, other stuff, like most of the other stuff was just kind of there for the most part. But like Jungle Boy and Hook are going to probably be teaming up to take on Lee Moriarty and Big Bill.
Shout out to Tom's Customs on Twitter, who put up a graphic that said the Jungle Hook. And I just, okay.
I like it.
All right. The Jungle Hook.
Yeah, but that's kind of it. The show overall was a big thumbs up, though, for me.
I want to talk about Miro real quick. Because
we don't talk about Miro.
Yeah, but nobody apparently does, because
we don't talk about.
Yeah, that's exactly what
I was going to go there too. But yeah, Miro did an interview with Muse TV, and he said, "Look, I'm ready to come back. I'm just waiting for the opportunity. I've done everything I can. Now I'm just sitting and waiting." Not a great look.
He was an oversight on an article that I've written most of already. It's going to pop up later this week of biggest losers in WWE and AEW. And after writing it up and submitting it, it was my supervisor was like, "Oh, you didn't add Miro in there?" I'm like, "Fuck, I forgot about Miro." Like he's been so out of the mix that I've even forgotten how much of a loser Miro has been this year, and I have to write that and add that into the mix. But yeah, some good stuff on whatever's coming. And speaking about what is coming next in NXT, here's your spoiler warning for the December 20th and December 27th episodes that are pre-taped. So we know what, at least the majority of what the content is going to be. They're clearly going to add some backstage segments, like some vignettes, video packages, and all that. They always do that. So, there'll be more material than this. But as far as like matches go, they did record those on the 14th. And thankfully we got some spoilers out there. If you don't want to know, then make sure that you subscribe and do all the stuff that we'll say at the end, and we'll see you next time. But if you are interested, here is your breakdown of what will happen over the next 2 weeks of NXT. Carmelo Hayes beats Axiom. Zoe Stark beats Nikita Lyons, but she holds the ropes for the pin, which makes sense. You know, she's the heel, so she's going to do something like that. We got the tag team titles for the women's division being retained. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter beat Toxic Attraction and Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley. Seems like Apollo Crews is going to be Carmelo Hayes' next feud. They do like a promo segment. Elektra Lopez beats Indy Hartwell. Sol Ruka and Alba Fire had a match where Isla Dawn got involved, and it basically ended up being like a no DQ, no contest type thing. New Day are still the tag team champions after beating Briggs and Jensen. And they did a little thing that had happened in WCW where Grayson Waller got speared by Braun Breaker, but then Waller reveals that he has a metal plate hidden under his clothes.
The greatest thing Bret Hart ever did in WCW, and it lives on. That's pretty cool.
That's the December 20th episode. So it sounds like it's an episode that, you know, in the grand scheme, now that we know what's going to happen, you can probably skip it. But if it would have aired live, probably some decent enough content there. The December 27th one has Julius Creed beating JD McDonough, Wendy Chu beating Cora Jade, Scripps beats Ikemen Jiro. So we got to see more Scripps. That's great. Lyra Valkyria beats Lash Legend. So look at that. Callum, Indy Hartwell loses and Lash Legend loses.
No, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
They let you book for Christmas?
Well, then they probably wouldn't be on the card.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not even the case of whether they win or lose. It's just the fact that they were there.
Yeah. Schism is going to beat Idris Enofe, Malik Blade, and Odyssey Jones. Fallon Henley's going to beat Kiana James. I'm assuming that they're going to do something where that'll be like, you know, hey, the reveal is that she's been involved with the whole problems that the bar is having and, you know, that story. So maybe this is like, I beat you and you leave me alone or something. I don't know. Drew Gulak also has something set up for Charlie Dempsey on the January 3rd episode after he's doing like a training segment with Hank Walker and Dempsey interrupts. And Wesley beats Tony D'Angelo. And the most interesting thing out of all of this is actually the last thing. Channing Stax Lorenzo was going to interfere, but Dijak stops him. So they've been harping on this brand of justice type thing with Dijak. Maybe they're going for more of a tweener character for him instead of just straight up heel.
The most interesting thing to you? That's the most obvious thing to me. They've been doing it for a couple weeks now.
Well, I mean, he beat the shit out of Wesley. It was like, well, that's a heel move, you know?
Right, but as soon as you throw him in this, well, they didn't throw him. They threw D'Angelo into this angle. It was clear that they were going with, he's going to be
a tweener of the three, yeah.
All right,
but maybe even going forward, it might be that sticks beyond that feud. I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a big guy that wants to just beat the shit out of anybody. And
I mean, it depends on the circumstance. If you're just like, you know, you're walking to Starbucks and some guy's doing that, it's going to be a problem.
Outside the 7-Eleven, there's just some 7-foot tall guy beating someone up. That's probably bad.
Big gulps, huh? Well, all right. See you later. So we don't know what's going to happen with the next episodes of SmackDown and Raw and everything. We won't be doing hot tags this next week around Christmas for multiple different reasons. One of them being it's Christmas. So no, we wouldn't be recording that anyway if that was the case. But also I'm going to be MIA and you guys are going to have something like 12 hours worth of awards material to listen to instead. So hot tags for this week are in the bag. We got another one coming up at the end of the year. We want to know what you have to say. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure that you are following us all over the place on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Hit that little notification bell. Hit the like button. Do the Patreon stuff and follow everything else under A Mango Tree by going to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. And you'll see the link tree with all sorts of different links, including Fanboys Anonymous and my personal stuff at Tony Mango. And make sure you are also going on a clicking spree and liking and following things when it comes to Rob and Callum. Rob, tell them where they can find you.
Yep, that's at Dude Felice everywhere. You can check me out on Fightful tonight, probably, hopefully, maybe you haven't listened to it yet. I'll be on the SmackDown and Rampage review show with good old Miss Kate Elizabeth. And tonight I'll also be recording for WrestleZone.com, The Job Guys. It's going to be me and Dominic D'Angelo, who does great stuff over at Wrestling Inc. and ad-free shows. And we're just going to be shooting the shit. And I invite everyone to come and join me as I try to get back out into the podcast side of things. But of course, for the writings, you can find me on Fightful, WrestleZone, and Inside the Ropes. And follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. But here's Callum.
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. For my writing side, you can head over to Smark Out Moments and check out the power rankings every single Saturday, where I rank the WWE superstars from 1 to 10, and you can keep track of how I've been doing that throughout the year in the little league table at the bottom. And if you like other tables, you should be checking out the Fantasy League, where I've been following the points all year round for all the superstars that we drafted right at not the start of the year, but the start of the right after WrestleMania, just leading into WrestleMania Backlash. And yeah, see who's doing well, who's not doing so well. Rob. And
you can't win them all. That's what I'll say.
You certainly can't.
Next year. I'll win
one will
next
be enough,
year.
though.
Fuck off. I'll win next year.
And yeah, just follow that. It's either on going through the Smark Out Moments navigation, or you can go straight to WWEFantasyLeague.com.
Alrighty, everybody. That is it for the hot tags for this particular episode, at the very least. Not the end of the hot tags from here going forward. We will see you in another episode down the line with episode 579. I think is what it classifies as. 578, whatever it is. I don't know. Math. You follow it. You do it. And the award stuff will be coming your way in this over the course of the 20th and the 22nd. 3 editions on both of those days. So stay tuned for that. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.